the fuel problems and all the other morning stories with Emily Carver from the free market think tank, the Institute of Economic Affairs. Morning to Emily.
Good morning.
And also Maurice McLeod, social commentator and chief executive of the social policy charity Race on the Agenda. Hi, Maurice.
Good morning.
Right. Maurice, where do you stand on the great petrol debate? We spoke to Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, and he said that petrol stations should be reserved for key workers and the army should be brought in as soon as possible to help sort this all out. Would you agree with those two things?
Yeah, sadly, I think that we need to do something. As has been said, it's not really a shortage, it's just a sort of logistical issue, but it's pretty predictable. As soon as you say, don't panic about X, human nature is going to make people panic, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing people, make sure that they have enough petrol. So it's a logistical thing, and I think the army could help in just making sure petrol is where it needs to be. I think Sadiq makes a good point though about key workers and the idea of having specific garages that will make sure if you're a nurse or a doctor or someone that actually has to have fuel in their vital job that you can get access to it. I think that's a good idea too.
What's your own personal conduct been? Have you got a car? Have you filled it up or not?
I haven't had a car for nearly 30 years.
Oh, well done you.
In London, there's no point driving in London, I don't think.
Either of you find this embarrassing? All this stuff put together, no CO2, shortage of CO2 for a while, energy prices going up, energy companies going bust, a shortage of some foods in some supermarkets, no petrol in up to 80% of petrol stations in this country. Short-term thing. It's all happening at once, though, and I wonder whether either of you feel embarrassed by this. Maurice?
Yeah, a bit. I kind of, sorry to say, feel like the government should be a bit embarrassed by it. We got elected on this, right, we're going to get Brexit done and kind of on a bit of a, we're going to control migration. Now they're handing out visas like confetti to make sure we can fuel our cars and have turkeys at Christmas. I think governments, they should be a little bit embarrassed about this, I think.
Radio Breakfast with Asma Mir and Stig Abel.
It's 9:18. We're talking over the issues of the day with Emily Carver and Maurice McLeod. Let's talk about the Labour Party conference. Keir Starmer has refused to back his deputy Angela Rayner after she called senior Conservatives a bunch of scum. The comments have caused a split amongst Labour's shadow cabinet at the first in-party conference since Keir Starmer became leader. Lisa Nandy and Ed Miliband, and then Rachel Reeves this morning on this programme distanced themselves from her remarks. She's since justified her comments by saying that she was emotionally invested in getting the Conservatives out and that activists needed more fire in their belly. Maurice, is it acceptable if you're the deputy leader of the party, rather than just a rank and file person, to use language like scum? Does it matter morally? And is it practically a good thing to do? Because will it turn off more people than it turns on?
It's a hard one. I wouldn't use that sort of language, and I know that's the sort of politician's answer. I wouldn't use that kind of language, but you have to remember that. I almost hesitate to say this, but the context is that she was at a meeting with activists, and she's trying to rile them up, and maybe that sort of language doesn't sound very. It's not the sort of language that's going to win you friends who used to be Tory voters, for instance, but. It's not aimed at them. It's aimed at the rank and file, the grassroots who are there in the room who want to, who are maybe feeling a bit, where's Labour going? And it's about injecting some vibrancy into that conversation. So I understand why she did it. It did sound a bit ranty when you hear it on its own, but I wasn't in the room basically. Yeah. I disagree completely. I think that Labour does need to have lots of different faces. One of them can be your sort of statesman-like prime minister in waiting, if you like Keir Starmer. But you need someone that speaks how normal people speak, and I think that's one thing that Angela Rayner really does do.
I don't think that's how normal people speak. It was a rant.
I'm sad to say, and I'm sure if we go to Tory activist meetings as well, there'll be similar sorts of diatribe, a vitriol. That's the way that people speak in political meetings. So I don't see that it's
I've never heard that.
Okay, well, you're not going to. This would apparently save the Treasury just under £2 billion a year if the figure went to £23,000 rather than £27,000. Is that worth it?
I'd have to say no. I mean, it's going to be a massive disincentive to anyone from poorer backgrounds going to university. I was lucky. I was in the last year that when you actually got a grant to go to university. I wouldn't have been able to go if I'd known I was going to be carrying debts for ages and making young people pay it back when they're earning 20 grand a year. Try living in London or somewhere like that on 20 grand a year and paying rent, and it feels really unfair, especially to a generation that have had to really bear the brunt of this last 18 months. As has just been said, I'm not sure that the Conservatives don't look at young people as their base, and it's but you feel like they need to do something to win this group back.
Yeah, and this probably isn't it. Duchess of Sussex have criticised ultra-wealthy pharmaceutical companies as they call on them to waive the patents on their coronavirus vaccines. Prince Harry and Meghan took to the stage at a charity event in New York last night among A-list performers such as Elton John and Kylie Minogue to make their plea to companies to begin sharing their recipes for COVID-19 jabs. I feel a bit conflicted on this because, at one level, I want to wish people well. I want to support them, and then I do. But I just something that grates about the manner in which sometimes these two talk. But grandstanding on the global stage, what do you feel when you hear these type of things? Do you agree with the sentiment, or do you think they should maybe talk about other things?
No, I guess it is grandstanding on a global stage, but they've got a global stage and they're using it to talk about good things. I think fair play to them. The virus doesn't respect national boundaries. We've got some countries in Africa, for instance, with only 2% of people have been vaccinated. Yes, of course, companies need to make profit from their development of these vaccines, but that you could say, right, okay, here's your profit, you've done that. Now the patent is open to everyone so that we can get the whole world vaccinated. I think they're exactly right, and it's sad that whenever they say anything, they get criticised for how they said it or where they said it or who they happen to be sitting next to. I think good for them. I'm glad that they're saying this sort of thing.
Let's discuss finally the Bond film, the latest Bond film. It says here the Bond film we've all been waiting for is set to hit cinemas this week. Feels like we've been waiting a long time, actually, not necessarily in a good way. No Time to Die will be Daniel Craig's farewell performance as 007 since he first took on the role in 2006. I think it's right to say that, especially in 2021, you're going to watch it or you're going to avoid it like the plague. Maurice, which are you?
I'll probably watch it just because I watch a lot of things, but it feels very outdated. It feels like a throwback, this sort of spy running around doing things. And Daniel Craig has definitely taken the franchise on, but I don't think it holds the place in our culture that maybe used to have.
Are you 63 minutes? Do you think you might? Are you going to watch 163 minutes? Do you think you might nod off?
I might skip the action bits.
Emily, what about you?